Welcome back to Outrage Science Bites. I'm David Beckmeyer, and this is day 29 of our 30-day challenge, closing in on the end of our deep dive into bridging our divides. We've used words like dialogue and discourse a lot in this series, but in the world of bridging, those two words actually mean very different things, and knowing the difference is crucial to building a successful conversation. That brings us to today's question. How do dialogue and discourse differ in the bridging context, and why does that distinction matter? Answering that for us is Tania Israel, a professor of counseling psychology at the University of California, Santa Barbara, and the award-winning author of Beyond Your Bubble, How to Connect Across the Political Divide. Tania will walk us through this essential distinction. Here's Tania.
So often when we think about what we're supposed to be doing in dialogue, we think that we're supposed to be, doing more of a discourse kind of thing where we are laying out all of the arguments and we're pulling on facts and we're bringing in stories, and that's what we're supposed to do. And that I really think about as, that's something that we might do, say, in a debate. And that's often the image that we have in our minds is of debate, because that's what we see. We see it on TV, that's what people are doing. They're bringing out all of their best arguments and making their cases for things. But here's the thing. In a debate, we never expect that we're going to lay out our good arguments and our facts and our stories, and that the other team is going to go, oh, I never thought about things that way. And like they're going to come and stand on our side of the podium and now be on our team. Like that's not what happens in a debate, and it's never what we expect. And the reason for that is in a debate, we're not even trying to convince the other team. We're trying to convince an outside observer. And that could be a judge, it could be an audience, it could be the voters. And we're making our case to those outside people. Okay, that's debate, and that's where you bring in discourse. What's dialogue? Dialogue is something that's happening without an audience. It's something that's based on human connection, where you are, and ideally like you and one other person, are able to have an exchange where your goal is about that relationship, creating a warm and trusting relationship where you're actually really, truly trying to understand each other and where you're coming from.
Yeah, I'm a moderator with a group called Crossing Party Lines, which we hold these, we put together, they organize these conversations, and then we moderate them. And the moderator's role is mostly just to kind of keep everything in the guardrails and make sure everybody gets a chance to speak. And we kind of coach people about what the rules are there and what the format is, because the format is simply sharing views, right? We just want to hear different people's views and try to give a forum where everybody has an opportunity to share their views. And we put the burden on the listener. So like people talk about the safe space. We say this is a brave space where the burden is not on the speaker to make sure they don't offend anybody, but listeners to sort of push through, even if you hear things that you're not comfortable with or that go against your views or whatever. Now, obviously, we have guardrails about personal attacks and this kind of stuff. But what's funny about that, even with all that kind of coaching about what this is about, it's so common that people come in assuming it's a debate. It's a debate, and there's going to be winners and there's going to be losers. It's very hard. That's just I think that's something that we've all been. It's just modeled out there all the time, and it's kind of it's the main way people see political conversations happening.
Well, and one of the things about that is that we see it out there because there is an audience for debate. But if there's no audience for dialogue, it's hard for people to imagine what that looks like, because like we don't often get to peek inside of that and know what that looks like if we're not participating in it.
I'm going to use some of this when next time I moderate a conversation to tell people the difference between what we're doing tonight and a debate. And there's no audience.
Fantastic.
We're not recording this. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually it shows up in social media too then, because in social media there is an audience. And so we get into this mode of debate in social media. People tell me like, "Oh, I was trying to have a conversation, it didn't go well." I'm like, "Oh, tell me about that conversation." They're like, "Oh, well, my cousin posted this thing on X, and then I responded, and then things just went south from there. And I'm like, yeah, that's not a conversation. So a conversation actually, is something where human connection is incredibly powerful. And so we can draw on that to have these kinds of dialogues.
That's all for today's episode of Outrage Science Bites. Stay curious, and until next time, I'm David Beckmeyer. Thanks for listening. If you enjoy these Science Bites episodes, you may enjoy the long-form Outrage Overload podcast at outrageoverload.net.